April 18, 1941. Nazi high command laughed when they heard Texas cowboys were building bombers. In Berlin, German intelligence officers dismissed the Fort Worth project as American propaganda, convinced that heavy bomber production required years of specialized training and generational expertise. But in Fort Worth, Texas, a dusty cattle town known for oil and livestock, not industry, Amon Carter, the local publishing titan and relentless civic champion, stood poised with a silver spade in a freshly broken field. He declared with characteristic confidence, "We're digging Hitler's grave here." This wasn't patriotic bluster. It was a promise. The conventional thinking, especially from America's enemies, assumed such complex feats required years of preparation, specialized infrastructure, and generations of expert labor. But America's response shattered those assumptions. Less than 12 months after that groundbreaking ceremony, Fort Worth would roll its first bomber off the assembly line, 100 days ahead of schedule. And those cowboys the Nazis laughed at? They were producing B-24s faster than the Luftwaffe could shoot them down. How did a slow-paced cowtown become a global aerospace powerhouse in under a year? The secret lay not just in steel and concrete, but in an assembly line that achieved the impossible, transforming former farm laborers, cowboys, and waitresses into high-precision aircraft builders in an average training span of just 3 weeks. This story is about how industrial logic and a revolutionary training system defeated the tyranny of time. The first act of industrial warfare was fought not overseas but in Washington, D.C., where local champion Amon Carter embarked on his relentless quest to secure the bomber facility for Fort Worth. When President Franklin D. Roosevelt's administration announced dual plans for both Fort Worth and Tulsa, proposing identical $10 million aircraft facilities, Carter staunchly rejected the notion of parity, demanding the largest possible complex. His conviction paid off. Fort Worth secured the largest aircraft facility in the world. Local voters demonstrated extraordinary commitment by swiftly approving a $1.25 million bond package to acquire the necessary land. The resulting edifice was unlike anything Texas had ever seen. Situated 7 miles northwest of the city center, the gigantic structure sprawled across 563 to 605 acres. Its main production hall stretched for a mile, designed to be entirely windowless to maintain strict blackout conditions. Yet, the true marvel lay in the engineering required to sustain precision manufacturing in the Texas heat. Inside this mile-long structure, engineers installed a forced air conditioning environment, creating artificial daylight that seemed to stretch from Fort Worth to Dallas, as one observer noted. This controlled climate was critical for the complex assembly work. The cooling demands were staggering. The system required pumping 14,000 gallons of water every minute from Lake Worth, achieving a refrigeration capacity equivalent to cooling 500,000 homes. The monthly power consumption resulted in an electric bill of $20,000, which today would equate to roughly $282,000. The choice of location carried strategic weight far beyond civic pride. Fort Worth was selected for its central continental position, offering protection from coastal attacks. Furthermore, the proximity to Lake Worth, already utilized for Consolidated's PBY Catalina patrol bomber seaplane operations, made it an ideal midpoint for ferrying massive 4-engine aircraft from locations like San Diego to Britain and Canada. This architectural colossus, raised from flat agricultural land in less than a year, was the setting for the next, even more audacious challenge. Staffing its 3 daily, 7-day-a-week production shifts with a completely raw workforce. The blueprint for the mile-long factory floor was impressive, yet the greatest engineering challenge facing Consolidated aircraft was human, not structural. Fort Worth, a city of 76,000 inhabitants, was expected to supply a peak workforce of 38,000 individuals. 1 in every 5 residents would eventually be employed by the bomber plant. These new workers were drawn from the region's economic backbone, people accustomed to the hard physical labor of the oil fields, the food processing sector, and the dusty cattle industry. Many originated from small Texas towns like Denton and Cleburne, often relocating from rural backgrounds where they had never encountered indoor plumbing, running water, or even electricity prior to working at the Fort Worth facility. How could a populace trained in agrarian and livestock practices suddenly shift to assembling a complex aircraft? A single B-24 required 957,000 rivets, 34,700 feet of electric wiring, and 19,100 bolts and screws. The answer lay in a nationwide initiative known as Training Within Industry, or TWI. This program was revolutionary in its core philosophy, operating on the principle that failure rested solely with the teacher, asserting, if the worker hasn't learned, the instructor hasn't taught. TWI was implemented across Fort Worth through 3 core J programs, most critically, the Job Instruction Training. GT broke down complex assembly tasks into a deceptively simple 4-step method. The instructor would first prepare the learner, then meticulously demonstrate the work, allow the new employee to immediately attempt the job, application, and finally, follow up with close inspection. This process emphasized skill building through practical, hands-on performance, largely eliminating conventional classroom theory. The results were immediate and validated the radical shift from traditional recruitment. TWI monitoring revealed that companies utilizing these methods achieved an incredible 86% increase in production and, crucially for aircraft quality, a 100% reduction in defects, scrap, and rework. This industrial logic quickly shattered the assumption that complex manufacturing required years of apprenticeship. The success of this rapid training system allowed Fort Worth to deliver its first B-24 Liberator off the assembly line in April 1942, an astonishing 100 days ahead of the national security timeline. Cowtown laborers had, on average, become high-precision aircraft builders in the span of just 3 weeks. When America rallied its industrial strength, the press and the nation turned their attention to the colossal Ford Willow Run plant near Detroit, the site famously set to revolutionize mass production by achieving 1 B-24 Liberator every 63 minutes. Yet, Willow Run's path was fraught with complications, hampered by severe startup problems, labor issues, and the necessity of creating what one official called a too closely resembling automobile assembly line. Fort Worth, utilizing a traditional aircraft manufacturing methodology adapted from its San Diego parent company, initially appeared less revolutionary. But its success was measured not in grand pronouncements, but in rapid, sustained results and high efficiency. Fort Worth delivered its first B-24 Liberator off the assembly line an astonishing 5 to 6 months earlier than Willow Run, demonstrating superior execution despite the latter's head start. The Fort Worth facility achieved this swift success and maintained a remarkable production record. The overall efficiency metrics revealed its superiority. Fort Worth required approximately 13.8 workers to produce each aircraft, whereas the larger Ford Willow Run needed approximately 16.2 workers per aircraft. Moreover, Fort Worth served a specialized and critical role within the broader Liberator production pool, which included San Diego, Willow Run, Tulsa, and North American Dallas. Fort Worth functioned uniquely as a modification center for aircraft received from other plants, guaranteeing that the B-24s flowing to the front lines incorporated the latest design updates. This adaptation capability gave Fort Worth a critical advantage in production expertise. While Willow Run ultimately produced more B-24s, 6,784 total, Fort Worth manufactured 2,145 Liberators, 14.8% of the total wartime production. Crucially, the plant received praise from the Truman Committee in 1943 ranking it among the best of the war industries for achieving production satisfactorily and efficiently with no excessive absenteeism, labor turnover, or worker management discord. This stability contrasted sharply with the morale and housing problems that plagued Willow Run early on. By delivering its first bomber 100 days ahead of national security expectations, Fort Worth proved that meticulous planning, rigorous training, and steady, high-quality production could defeat even the most ambitious, yet turbulent mass production experiments. The rapid production statistics emerging from Fort Worth, a bomber rolling off the line every 4 to 5 hours, were the product of an unparalleled human transformation. At its peak, the bomber plant employed 38,000 workers, meaning 1 in every 5 Fort Worth residents worked inside the mile-long factory. These were not industrial veterans. They were farm workers, ranch hands, and service staff drawn from small Texas communities like Denton and Cleburne. Many of these new recruits had never encountered indoor plumbing, running water, or electricity prior to accepting employment at the facility. This influx drove a profound social revolution. Women, entering the heavy industry workforce in unprecedented numbers, soon comprised approximately 1/3 of the total workforce by 1944. Crucially, Fort Worth implemented a progressive wage policy, paying women the same wages as men for performing the same jobs, a decision intended to support both fairness and morale. The transformation of Mary Louise Steppen, who operated a hand mill in 1942, and Grace Brown, who recalled that learning skills allowed them to sweep the floor of convention, epitomized this profound societal shift. Yet, the immense industrial effort collided with the harsh reality of the Deep South. While the factory floor represented economic liberation, the city of Fort Worth itself remained strictly segregated during the war. The Federal Public Housing Authority built the Liberator Village to house workers, but this housing was explicitly divided. Ripley Arnold Place was reserved for white workers, while H. Butler Place was designated for black workers, often physically separated by barbed wire fences. Despite the massive expansion of the workforce, the percentage of Fort Worth's black population actually declined from 18.1% in 1940 to 14.1% in 1920, suggesting that significant barriers to employment and advancement persisted in the defense industries. The bomber plant successfully transformed cowboys and waitresses into skilled mechanics in weeks, demonstrating America's industrial capacity. But the struggle for social equality, the unfinished fight, was still being waged outside the factory gates. Fort Worth's core mission was clear: produce the B-24 Liberator heavy bomber. Yet, the facility carved out a unique specialization, becoming the exclusive manufacturer of a variant often overlooked but strategically vital: the C-87 Liberator Express. This specialty production, which encompassed 287 transport aircraft built between September 1942 and August 1944, demonstrated the Texas plant's versatility far beyond conventional bomber production. The C-87 was a substantial modification of the B-24. Engineers replaced the bomber's volatile armament and bomb bays with an enlarged, pressurized fuselage. The resultant aircraft served dual roles, capable of carrying 25 passengers or 12,000 pounds of vital cargo. Unique features included large, 6-foot by 6-foot loading doors fitted to the port side and rectangular windows running along the fuselage. These transport aircraft assumed critical logistical roles across the globe. Most famously, the C-87s, nicknamed the Hump, were tasked with navigating the deadly, treacherous Himalayan supply route to China. This was a lifeline operation requiring high durability and capacity in extreme conditions, a capability that solidified Fort Worth's reputation as an expert in aircraft modification and conversion. But the C-87 achieved its greatest historical significance not through cargo, but through personnel transport. Fort Worth produced 6 C-87A VIP executive transports. These were outfitted with high-ranking official requirements, including accommodation for 16 passengers and 10 sleeping berths. One such aircraft, with the serial number 4124159, dubbed Guess Where To, entered the annals of history. This specific C-87A became the first aircraft ever to function as Air Force One for President Franklin D. Roosevelt, forever linking the Fort Worth assembly line to the highest levels of presidential travel and strategic command. Fort Worth was not merely an arsenal. It was the birthplace of high-speed, long-range logistics for American leadership. The massive Liberator production pool required 5 major complexes across the United States to meet the overwhelming demand of global conflict. Yet, these factories were built for wartime speed, not peacetime longevity. When the conflict concluded, the question became, what happens when the arsenal of democracy is no longer needed? The parent facility, Consolidated's original San Diego plant, eventually saw its massive buildings demolished, with the site now primarily serving as a rental car facility for the airport. The gargantuan Ford Willow Run complex, designed to revolutionize manufacturing, was mostly demolished following the General Motors takeover. Tulsa converted its production to commercial aircraft components, and North American Dallas was entirely demolished. But Fort Worth stood apart. The facility, built from Texas grassland in under a year, proved to be an industrial anchor, not a temporary construction. The plant demonstrated its essential role immediately after the B-24 program concluded by transitioning to exclusive production of the B-32 Dominator heavy bomber. Between 1943 and 1945, Fort Worth manufactured 124 B-32 Dominator bombers, proving its capacity for sustained high-volume production of complex 4-engine aircraft. Today, Fort Worth stands alone. It is the only B-24 production facility in existence that still produces military aircraft. This unique status represents an unprecedented achievement in American aerospace manufacturing, a continuous legacy of 83 consecutive years of military aircraft production, surviving war, peace, and technological revolutions. The quick-study mechanics who once built Liberators from scratch had cemented Fort Worth as a permanent, indispensable cornerstone of American defense manufacturing. The expertise cultivated in the mile-long factory, turning unskilled workers into precision assemblers, did not cease when the last B-24 rolled out. Instead, Fort Worth immediately transitioned to the exclusive production of the B-32 Dominator. However, the greatest demonstration of faith in the facility's unparalleled capacity arrived during the shift into the nuclear age. In August 1942, even before the first B-24 flight from the facility, Consolidated committed the development of the B-36 Peacemaker to Fort Worth, a testament to the confidence placed in the plant's production capabilities. The B-36 represented an enormous quantum leap in strategic aviation. This behemoth, produced exclusively at Fort Worth between 1946 and 1954, was the world's first true strategic deterrent. It dwarfed its predecessor, requiring a 230-foot wingspan. Its unique propulsion system was so complex, it earned the nickname six-turning, 4 burning for its 6 piston engines and 4 supplemental jet engines. The B-36 provided the crucial intercontinental range required to strike the Soviet Union from American bases. It became the physical anchor of the nation's nuclear defense, ensuring that the legacy created by WWII's mechanics remained the foundation of American security for decades. The aircraft served the nation until February 1959, arguably maintaining peace merely through its existence. The plant built all 300 85 Y-36 Peacemakers, securing its permanent position as an indispensable corner of the American defense industry. The bomber factory, born from a Texas dirt field, proved its structural and human resilience not just by surviving World War II, but by becoming the crucible for America's Cold War air dominance. The facility immediately leaped into the jet age, transitioning from the immense six-engine B-36 to the production of the B-58 Hustler. This aircraft marked a tremendous technological boundary shift, becoming the world's first operational Mach 2 bomber. All 116 B-58 Hustlers were exclusively produced at Fort Worth between 1956 and 1962, once again demonstrating that the former cowtown remained the nation's indispensable center for high-stakes strategic aviation. But the ultimate measure of Fort Worth's capacity for continuous transformation lay in its production of the F-16 Fighting Falcon. The F-16 program, following the production of the F-111 Aardvark, became the longest-running production program in the facility's history, spanning 39 consecutive years. The facility manufactured more F-16s than any other single aircraft type it ever built. Over the course of that nearly four-decade run, the plant produced over 3,620 F-16. At its peak in 1987, F-16 production exceeded 4,600 aircraft through crucial international co-production efforts. The skills mastered by those original farm-turned-factory workers proved adaptable across generations, transitioning seamlessly from the piston-driven Liberators and Dominators through the Mach 2 Hustler to the supersonic F-16. This unbroken 83-year legacy of military aircraft production, unrivaled in American aerospace history, sets the stage for the factory's final, most advanced transformation: stealth. The transformation that began on a dirt field in 1941, converting farmhands into high-precision builders in a matter of weeks, laid the groundwork for an industrial lineage that endures today. That legacy now culminates in the F-35 Lightning II program, the fifth-generation stealth fighter, which is the most complex military aircraft ever constructed at the facility. Fort Worth is currently dedicated to F-35 production, with plans to potentially produce over 4,000 aircraft over its life cycle. The current full-rate production of 156 aircraft per year ensures the facility will continue operations well into the 2040s and 2050s. This dedication virtually guarantees that the bomber plant will achieve a remarkable centennial status: 100 consecutive years of military aircraft production, a milestone unmatched by any other facility established during World War II. The Fort Worth plant now stands alone. Of the 5 massive facilities that form the Liberator production pool, it is the only one still producing military aircraft today. While San Diego, Willow Run, Tulsa, and Dallas ceased production or were demolished, Fort Worth continued its 83 consecutive years of military aviation production. The production numbers tell the complete story of its strategic importance. Over 10,000 military aircraft have been built here, including all 2,743 B-24 Liberators, all 124 B-32 Dominators, all 385 B-36 Peacemakers, all 116 B-58 Hustlers, and over 3,620 F-16 Fighting Falcons. Many current workers at the factory are second, third, or even fourth-generation employees. They inherit the spirit of resilience and capability proven by the original 38,000 workers, who proved that raw American capacity could adapt instantly to master intricate manufacturing. Grace Brown, interviewed at the age of 101, reflected on the experience of learning the skills that allowed women to sweep the floor of convention. Mary Louise Stephan, who ran a hand mill in 1942, embodied the connection between the factory floor and the front lines, helping secure victory. When Amon Carter broke ground with a silver spade on April 18, 1941, he declared with confidence, "We're digging Hitler's grave here." That statement, initially dismissed by some as hyperbole, proved to be an unwavering truth. The effort that began with turning cowboys and waitresses into bomber builders in 3 weeks created an industrial legacy that continues to defend America, ensuring that the mile-long assembly line, raised from the dust of Texas, remains the foundation of America's enduring military strength.